Good day to all. I am Teacher April and this is another lecture video in Earth and Space Science 10. Geologically speaking, plate tectonics shape the Earth. The Earth looks like the way it is now because of the continuous motion of plates. Today, we will be discussing about the three types of plate boundaries. Are you ready to learn? Let's take a look at the illustration. This illustration shows the world's tectonic plates. As you can see, the Earth is divided into major and minor plates, which are constantly moving in a slow rate. Here there are three circles representing the types of plate boundaries. Each circle shows the interaction between two plates. Do you see any difference? Now let's focus on this circle here. Okay? So notice that inside this circle there are two arrows. The arrows, by the way, indicate the direction of the plate movement. So here we have Eurasian plate and North American plate interacting with each other. So while Eurasian plate is moving towards the right, the North American plate is moving towards the left. So the two plates are drifting away from each other. Now let's take a look at the second circle. Okay, the second circle constitutes two plates, Pacific plate and the North American plate. Pacific plate is moving, as you can see in the arrow, it's moving towards northwest, while the North American plate is moving southeast. So the two plates are grinding against each other. Now for the last circle, notice the direction of the arrows. Okay, so Australian plate is colliding or meeting with the Pacific plate. So these three circles indicate different direction of plate interaction and therefore represents the type of plate boundaries. Now let's find out what they are called and know the different geologic features formed as a consequence of this type of plate movement. The first type of plate boundary is the convergent plate boundary. The keyword here would be the word converge. This is the type of plate boundary where two plates converge. So what do we mean by converge? It simply means meet, collide, or moving towards each other. So this type of plate boundary has three subtypes. Okay? So as you can see in the picture, the first type is oceanic to oceanic convergence. Second type is oceanic to continental convergence. And the third type is the continental to continental convergence. But first, let's take a look at these words, oceanic crust and continental crust. Now, why do we make use of the word crust instead of plates? Please don't be confused. Continental and oceanic crust are actually the two types of crust as we have learned in our previous lesson. Now, beneath this crust are actually plates. And as the plates move in a specific direction, it carries along with it the crust. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Let's take a look at the first type of convergence. So we have two oceanic crusts colliding. So there's one important process that's happening here. Okay, so if you have an older oceanic crust, okay, since it's older, it is denser. So what's gonna happen is that when it collides to another oceanic crust, it will now move downward. Okay? So the plunging of that crust beneath another crust is actually called subduction process. So again, what is subduction? It is a process where one crust sinks or plunges underneath another crust because they are different in density. So again, the older and denser oceanic crust will subduct. Now, because of this subduction process, there will be formation of volcanoes on the Earth's crust. Now, if this keeps on happening, okay, soon, okay, that will become an island arc like the Philippines and Japan. Now, parallel to this island arc is a trench, like the Marianas Trench. So it's actually the boundary between the two oceanic crusts. So it's a fracture at the bottom of the sea. Now let's take a look at the oceanic to continental convergence. Now this time you have two types of crust colliding. So what's going to happen, since there's difference in densities, so the denser oceanic crust here will subduct, okay, when it meets a continental crust. So why will oceanic crust will subduct and not the continental crust? Why will this subduction takes place here? Simply because oceanic crust is denser than the continental crust. So whenever there's a difference in densities, then that's the time subduction may take place. So what will happen on the Earth's crust? Okay, similarly, there will be formation of volcanoes because there's subduction taking place. And since it happens on the continental crust, soon it will become volcanic arc. Now, parallel to that is another trench. Okay, it sets the boundary between continental and oceanic crusts. Now, the last, okay, this one, the last type of convergence, we have continental to continental convergence. Okay, so no oceanic crust is involved in this type of convergence. Okay, obviously, we have only two continental crusts. Now, since they are both less dense, when they meet, okay, when they meet, they would actually buckle upward and form folds, as you can see in the illustration. Okay, since there's no subduction here, there would be no volcanoes, no trenches. Instead, mountain ranges are formed. Okay? So these are the three types of convergent plate boundary. So let's now proceed to the next type of plate boundary. Divergent plate boundary is another type of plate boundary. What do you think is happening to the oceanic crust in the illustration? Here, two plates diverge. So the key word here is the word diverge. Diverge means separate, drift away, or move away from each other. So divergent plate boundary is a type of plate boundary where two plates move away from each other. And this may happen on either oceanic crust or continental crust. So in this illustration, we have an oceanic crust diverging and form, okay, this center here, okay, and this center, this type of formation is called a mid-ocean ridge, okay. So an example of a mid-ocean ridge is the Mid-Atlantic ridge. So the Mid-Atlantic ridge has developed as a result of divergence between Eurasian and North American plate, as well as the South American and African plate. So it's a very long underwater mountain system running the center of the Atlantic Ocean. So again, don't forget divergent plate boundary. Okay, so plates moving away from each other. So let's now continue. The last type of plate boundary is the transform plate boundary. In other references, they use the word transform fault boundary. They're just the same. So it's a type of plate boundary where the plates are sliding past each other. As in the illustration, one is moving south while the other is going north. Are you familiar with the San Andreas Fault? It's a fault system representing the transform boundary between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. So this type of plate boundary causes earthquakes on the Earth's crust. Okay, so where is this San Andreas Fault located? It's located in California. So it's actually between, it's a boundary between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. So it slides past each other. So when they do that, okay, it may cause earthquakes on the Earth's crust. Okay, but take note, convergent and divergent plate boundaries can also cause earthquakes. Okay, so let's not forget the three types of plate boundaries. So once again, we have 1. Convergent plate boundary, 2. Divergent plate boundary, and 3. Transform plate boundary. So how are these three different from each other? So for convergent plate boundary, okay, so if you have two plates, they collide. Okay, they converge or they meet. So this is convergent plate boundary. Now, once we say divergent plate boundary, the plates are separating, okay, or they drift away from each other. Okay, diverge means move away from each other. Now, for transform plate boundary, okay, so the two plates are actually sliding past each other. So one is moving up, the other is moving down, okay? So they're actually sliding past each other, okay? So don't forget about the three types of plate boundary. Whatever the boundary is, the boundary type, it actually would create, okay, a great impact on the Earth's crust. Finally, we're done. Thank you everybody for watching this short video. I hope you learned something in this lesson. Till next time, stay home, do your homework, and stay focused. Hi, these are the references that I use in making this presentation. If you wish to read more, you may go over with these references so that you can learn more of the different types of plate boundaries. Thank you.